My aunt so graciously gifted me a steam canner, and I'd never heard of one before. I had known about the traditional water bath method. I knew about pressure canners, which at one point in time I did have an all-American canner, one of those big, huge behemoth things that it was so terrifying. I never used it. I bought it at an auction, paid like 50 bucks for it, and I was so scared to use it that I ended up reselling it. So anyways, the purpose of the steam canner is to utilize less water. I did not know that these existed, and that is fabulous because that is exactly what we're going to be struggling with when we do get out on the land, is our lack of water. And by having something like this that can essentially preserve things with a little amount of water is just going to be completely game changing. And so thank you, Aunt, for sending this to me. I'm really excited to use it. And I actually went out of my way to pick up a bunch of apples, and we're going to, I think, make some apple butter or applesauce. I haven't quite decided yet. Either way, they're pretty darn close. But anyways, yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Before I could even get started on that though, I had a huge mountain of dishes in the sink I had to get to, and so I went ahead and started on that first and just made certain that I had all of my equipment and I was prepared to start canning. This is the unfortunate side that I don't think a lot of people get to see when it comes to homemaking and canning, preserving, cooking channels, all of that fun stuff. So here it is. Alright, so here we go. It's a nice little size steam canner. I think this is going to be absolutely perfect for what I need it for and the amount of batches that I'm actually doing when I do preserve and can. See if we can get it out of here. Alright, we got it. So my understanding is that this is the bottom where the water will go in. So look, that is like just a couple inches of water instead of an entire massive enamel pot full. This is the ledge so that your cans can sit on there. The steam permeates up from above. And then this big lid goes on top, and then from there obviously the steam stays kind of trapped in there, and then you have your gauge in which you can determine, you know, if it's up to the temp it needs to be. And obviously we're going to read the manual and determine all that information before we get started. So here it gives some examples of applesauce. Strangely enough, that's what I was actually probably going to end up making. And then it gives us the processing times on here for this case. So basically, I'm going to be probably doing pints. I don't know if I have any large jars at the moment, but it gives the different altitudes. I am within this 1 to 3,000 range right now. So obviously I would want to be cooking these for about 20 minutes in the steam canner. Before I can even get to preparing anything, I've got to get this little apple pillar doohickey out and set up. I'm just curious, how many of you guys have one of these out there? I actually remember my grandparents having one of these, and it actually didn't have the nice suction cup. I thought it had like a clamp or a vise or something that would like hook on to the table while you were doing this. So we'll see how well this works. I'm kind of interested. All right, that was easy. All I had to do was attach the handle. I'm assuming these are extra parts because there was nothing in there. It looks like it's the extra, that piece, and then this piece, which is the slicer. All right, and yeah, I got it in teal, by the way. I thought that was a cute color. Anyways, I have no idea how this thing works, so I've got to figure that out. The instructions aren't the greatest, so we'll do that, and then we'll get to peeling some apples. All right, so I've got my apples and I've got my peeler, and so let's figure this out. And before anybody asks if I picked these myself, bless your heart, no I didn't, even though I do have kind of a funny story about getting these apples. So let's see. Here we go. This guy has to come back. All right, cool. I think it worked. Nice. Grab my second large bowl here. That way I could just throw my peeled apples into there, and then we can continue to process them as we go. For most part, it did a nice job. There's still a little bit of peel down here on the end. I must not have had something set right then, or I must not have had it started at the right part. But overall, that's what it does. It makes a nice accordion apple for you. So yeah, as I mentioned, we actually did not pick these apples. We went to an orchard near us that was just absolute Instagram hell. Too many people would flannel. The apples they did have in bushels to sell were rotten. So we just said, you know what? I think we're just gonna go pick some up at the store instead. So we went to Costco, bought some in bulk, and it worked out perfectly fine. No hassle, no lines, and plenty of apples. All right, my apples are peeled. And I have a bunch of scraps, as you can kind of see in front here. I'm gonna take these scraps for now, put them in a bag, and Paul is planning on working on a compost bin this weekend at some point. So we're gonna build that, and this will be great to throw in there. So we're gonna do that. Because why not put all of this to use and growing some really fantastic soil for our garden. All right, here's all the apples. A couple of these need a little bit of cleaning up on them on the top part where the core came out, but otherwise these are good to go ahead and start making some either apple butter or some applesauce. So we'll get to that next. So these are what the apples look like cooked down for a few minutes before I took my immersion blender to them to kind of make them into more sauce consistency. This is after, so I went ahead and let these cook down for a little bit longer because there's still a lot of water in there. I did go ahead though, add in my sugar, Gave everything a nice stir. Added in some cinnamon. Gave that another stir. And then added some lemon juice just to help kind of preserve the coloring. And then I just continued to let this boil down a little bit to thicken up. So once it got to this consistency, I knew it was just about ready to be canned. And so we went ahead, filled up some jars that I had already had prepped. You can see I had about 7 jars there. I only ended up getting about 5 full pints and then about 3/4 full of another pint that I just ended up eating immediately instead of canning. Alright, now it was time for the true test. Let's lift these jars and place them onto our new steam canner. I did go ahead and test the steam canner and calibrate everything before doing this, just FYI. The steam canner actually ended up only using about 8 cups of water underneath, which is a huge difference compared to typical water bath canning. So that alone was super exciting for me to continue to use something like this as a very valuable tool. So we turned up the heat and let it do its thing. So I've got a jar. It's only about 3/4 full. I'm gonna give it a try just to see what it's like. So this one is a little bit watery. Reason because it's pretty much, it was the bottom of the barrel, so it's getting a lot of the excess water. I couldn't kind of strain out with my spoon, but overall it's a good applesauce. It's a little bit tartar than a typical applesauce, but by no means like inedible like that orange marmalade I made. It's actually pretty good. I didn't use as much sugar in it as well, you know, because obviously I don't want a bunch of crap in here. I just kind of want the taste of the apples. So yeah, I think it's a success. Hopefully these come out and we've got some more things in our storage. So awesome. Once we made it to that max point for our steam canner, I let that cook for a little bit longer, or steam I should say, for a little bit longer, and then it was time to let the steam out. And that was it, about 30 minutes of time altogether, you know, from start of the steam canning and to letting it set. And finally it was time to go ahead and move these on out of the steam canner and let them cool down, even though they had all successfully sealed immediately as soon as I opened that lid, as you heard. So I'm really impressed with this steam canner. I, you know, love the fact I'm going to save so much water going into this. And this is just a wonderful alternative, I think, to water bathing. This does not replace any type of things that need pressure canning. So if you're canning with things with fats or meats or things like that, you still need to follow pressure canning methods. But steam canning has been tested. There's folks that talk about it in other videos. I won't go into it, but it's a wonderful method to use, especially for us here in the desert that need to conserve some of that water. So yeah, I had a bunch of things now of applesauce, and it barely used any of the water I put in there, so this could be used for watering or so much other stuff. And that's it for today, my friends. Thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you next time.